G'day, I'm Patrick from Douglas Fir Design. Welcome to the Router Bits. Recently developed a keen interest in the process of making whiskey. I have some friends who do it, and one of the most important parts of whiskey making is the barrel that you're using. And as a woodworker, I was like, I'd like to give that a shot. And I talked to some people and they said, coopering is an ancient and difficult art and you should learn how to do it properly. And I had a look and it is an ancient and difficult art, but I found a way to do it relatively simply and I gave it a shot. I made a barrel that didn't leak and I want to show you guys how to do it. I want to use my barrel to put some whiskey in it, so I need to put all of the pieces together without using glue because I don't want the glue to go into my whiskey, and I'm going to use some metal hoops to bind it all together and apply the pressure that I need to make it not leak. If you want to follow this project and then use it to make something more ornamental like a wooden bucket or an ornamental barrel, by all means glue it together. It'll work wonderfully. But for my particular project, I am going to do it in a way that doesn't use any glue. Traditional barrels, as you probably are aware, are barrel shaped. They're bowed in the center, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One of them being it makes them easier to roll around and pivot on the floor because they're huge and they weigh a ton. The one that I'm making is only going to be about 30 centimeters wide, about 450 millimeters tall, and it won't weigh very much, and it's a hell of a lot easier for me to make it with straight sides rather than bowed sides. So that's what I'm going to do. By all means, follow this along, make a bucket if you want, make a flower pot. You can use this process to make anything else that kind of has that shape. I'm using it to make a barrel. Alrighty, so I've chosen to use American oak timber because that is traditionally what is one of the more common woods used in barrel making, and I want to be able to drink out of this, so that imparts a nice flavour to the whiskey. If you're making a bucket or something ornamental, use whatever timber you want. If you want to do a practice run, make it out of pine, make it out of MDF, I don't care. I'm making mine out of American oak. The next part that I want to show you are these industrial iron hose clamps. Now, I got these from an industrial supply. I'm going to put a link down below for where you can find them. The largest I could find in diameter was 300 millimeters, which dictated the size of my barrel. If you have someone who can make you some giant metal rings, by all means, go ahead and do that. The convenience of these is you can tighten them up. They're very strong. They're relatively inexpensive. Just a really convenient way to apply the pressure that I need to apply. So, traditional barrel making, you have iron rings that are riveted together. They're a set size, you hammer them on. This is very different from that, and I do not want to take anything away from the traditional art of coopering because what they're doing is much more sophisticated than what I'm doing here. But these work fantastically. They apply a ton of pressure. You can get them in stainless steel or gal, and they do a great job. Let's talk about the timber bits that you will need. I have machined a whole bunch of these blank staves, and you'll need to do the same. The dimensions that I've ended up with are 80 mils wide. The thickness isn't as important. Mine is about 23.5 millimeters thick, but that is just the thickness that I ended up with. So if you're buying pre-machined stock and it comes at 19 mil or whatever, that will work totally fine. And they're about 450 millimeters long. I've left a bit of excess on there and I'll trim them off later. But that is the size that works for my barrel that will give me that 300 mil diameter barrel by about 450 millimeters high. I'm using 12 staves, which means the angles that I need to cut on the edge of each stave is 15 degrees. If you would like to do a barrel with less staves, you can just choose an appropriate chamfer bit that will give you a different angle. To figure that out, you need to take 360, which is the number of degrees in a circle, divided by the number of staves that you want, say 8 for instance, and that will give you 45 degrees. But because each stave angle joins together, you need to divide that by 2 again, so that would be 22.5 degrees. Anyway, do the maths yourself. I'm going to be talking about doing a 12-sided barrel. With the chamfer bits available to me conveniently, I couldn't go any more sides than 12, and 12 has worked out fine, so we'll be sticking to that. In terms of the top and the bottom, the heads of the barrel, I've also used American oak. I managed to find some good pieces that were about 25mm thick by 300mm wide, which gives me the size that I need without gluing any pieces together, because I want to avoid using glue. In traditional barrel making, they do use separate pieces and they join them together, not with glue. They use dowel. If you wanted to do this, you could, and you couldn't find any wide pieces of board, you could probably do it with a tongue and groove bit, or a glue joint bit, or any other timber joining bit. You just want a nice tight fit so that you can, as the wood swells, you can avoid the barrel leaking. Easiest way for me was to get one solid chunk of timber. I don't need to worry about it leaking at all. So those are the bits of wood you need. When you're cutting yourself staves, I'd give yourself a few extra just in case you mess anything up. Generally it's worked pretty easily for me, but you need to machine them so that they are even and very smooth. So I did that using my jointer and my thicknesser. Just need to keep that in mind. You can do it however you want, but you will need to get boards that are all the same size and all very smooth.